a little more of the practical implications of natural theology, generic theism, why it's a problem, the recent announcements that I think function as a vindication of what I was arguing in the debate. These aren't just academic problems and issues. These are topics that relate directly to our modern papacy, to modern religion, to the subversive movement of so-called interreligious dialogue, which, as we know, is actually just a tool of powerful geopolitical interests. We've covered that ad nauseum in multiple academic works, books, even from traditional Catholics themselves, like David Wimhoff, which argues that basically the tool, or the goal, was to turn the Vatican into a tool like an NGO. And that's essentially what has happened indisputably in the last 50, 60 years, especially since Vatican II. Wimhoff's whole book is about that. And yet Roman Catholics would have us to believe that despite all of that being the case, it's still the infallible, indefectible See of Peter. Even as Francis on a daily basis does anti-Christian, anti-theistic even actions, we're still supposed to accept this position, this office. And of course, Roman Catholics just act as if they don't care what Francis does, right? Or they reinterpret it, recontextualize it to be not dogmatic, not infallible, so he can basically do anything that he wants. I don't really care. I have my own traditional Catholicism apart from Rome. And the problem with this, of course, is that Vatican I doesn't allow a individual, local Roman Catholicism apart from Rome. There's no such thing as Catholicism that doesn't directly relate to your communion with the See of Rome, the Bishop of Rome. That's why I've got a giant stack of Thomist texts over there on my shelf. Even the most boring technical chapters in Whipple, trying to be as precise and as clear on what Thomism says, on its epistemology. And the opponents, they don't even know Thomism. They don't even know their own position. It's just embarrassing. And so I think a lot of these people are just relying on the ignorance of the audience. What better vindication? It's like literally every time there's some kind of drama or thing comes up, Francis is like our salvation for this. I'm saying for us as Orthodox, because every time an issue comes up, Francis just does a whopper within a week or two that vindicates us. And this has been going on for years now, where, you know, we would have these big debates, disputes, bouts, internet fracas drama. Lofton goes on a tirade. Ibarra goes on a whining, crying tirade about his feelings being hurt. This is 3 years now. Your feelings have been hurt. Come on, dude. Now, I'm going to go slow for you, slow boys. Let's go slow. Has nothing to do with whether they knew the word Trinity in the Old Testament. And I'm amazed at the stupidity of people that are making this argument in response. Are you sure you want to make that argument? That the word Trinity is what's necessary to believe in the Trinity? Are you sure you want to make that argument? Because guess who else makes that argument? Muslims, Seventh-day Adventists, goobers who think that Nicaea invented the Trinity. And so that's their argument, to say that there's no real reason to believe in the Trinity or basis until Nicaea, Athanasius, these people formulate it. That's not the base. That's the terminological, definitional notions of the Trinity. That's not referencing Father, Son, and Spirit for the first time, dummies. How can you not see this? If the Trinity as a word and concept, according to Nicaea, was absolutely necessary to belief in the Trinity, then the New Testament writers don't believe in the Trinity. You're making Arian Muslim arguments. How do you not see this? This is so stupid. No wonder you people fall into anti-Trinitarian heresies, literally. And I'm saying the Vatican is going in that direction. And I'm not just going to point out this document. I'm going to point to other documents too. What did Fratelli Tutti do? You notice they just ignore all this. I don't care. Well, who cares who cares? They either ignore what Francis does, or they do this gigantic mental gymnastics, like gold medal Olympics, approach to somehow figuring out ways to make the insanity that Francis does orthodox, right? Pachamama, everybody, this has been on full display for the whole world. And anybody with like a basic knowledge of Christianity would know, like, you can't, Pachamama's a no-no, dude. That's a human sacrifice deity. Oh, but like it's a symbol. It's like Mary. And if we enculturate, like we could take the human sacrifice goddess and make it. Okay, so Kali, is Kali Mary too? I mean, Shiva, is that Mary? I mean, are all of these gods and goddesses, are they all just Mary? I mean, this is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And it's all predicated on the idea of generic theism. Do you understand that the argumentation and basis for an Abrahamic family house of Jews, Christians, and Muslims in common is identical to the argument and approach of natural theology, that the Old Testament is a bare Unitarian monad? Do you understand that the only reason Roman Catholics would even think that is if they fundamentally don't have the Trinity? I'm not saying they don't think they have the Trinity. They think they do. I'm not saying they don't get some things right. They get some things right. It doesn't work to get some things right, though. What this comes down to is not a question of do we agree with Roman Catholics or even Protestants on the idea of teleology or the use of reason or causation. No, of course not. Nobody's going to be so foolish as to deny teleology, causation, or reasoning unless you're a skeptic. And that's where skepticism comes in, because it's a question of justifying our beliefs. And debating, for people that don't know this, involves giving reasons for beliefs, right? Which is critical thinking, which is thinking correctly, which is justification, right? Not just saying they're self-evident truths. They just are. Not just appealing to the cogito, right? But actually giving reasons for why the position, the belief that you have is the case. And so this whole position was, according to Trent, outlined as strong foundationalism. He cited things that are classically considered strong foundationalist positions, like self-evident, properly basic truths and Descartes' cogito, without any knowledge of the laughable status of those things in the last 400 years of epistemology. Those things are not self-evident. They've been critiqued ad nauseum on the notion of self-evidence itself as being circular. But wait a minute, we can't be circular, right? But what was the two attempts at justification that Trent gave? Well, we all agree on this. It's common sense. Those are the two things he said to offer as justification. I'm sorry, but that is piss poor philosophy, and nobody with a 101 level knowledge of epistemology would consider common sense, general appeal to the masses, pragmatism as justifications. They're just as relativistic and circular as just simply referring to the original premise. And the irony is that that's the very thing he was critiquing us of. Circularity. And Descartes' cogito is circular. I mean, it's just so, like, I'm just kind of baffled at the level of, Roman Catholic ignorance of epistemology.